Now that I have the intake off, I want to take a few moments to go back and correct some of the mistakes I made. One of the mistakes I made was securing the tie wraps too tight. I should have left them loose. That would allow the wiring harness to move left and right. I had an issue over on this right side, on the driver's side, where I needed more slack. Once the supercharger's in place, you can't get to anything to cut tie wraps, and I couldn't move the wires. Another mistake I made is I left the wiring harness on the other side of these hoses here. I'm going to disconnect these connectors, try to get enough slack to pull back behind that. That will allow this harness to become one. The reason for that is this bundle of wires on the left is about the same location as that number one bolt that you need to tighten down on the supercharger, the one that's hard to get to. Having the ability to move that wiring harness up and down to get your finger in there would be a huge benefit. Remember, you'll have this hose in place as well. There's no room, it's very tight. Do everything you can. For instance, I removed some of the tabs, but not all the tabs. Remove all the tabs, all the factory tabs off the wiring harness. Even the tabs that, like that one sensor, I don't know if you can tell, but there's like a plastic piece of that tab that's taped in on against the wire, and the barb that was sticking down I cut off, but I left that plastic piece taped in the. Well, I'm going to go ahead and cut that and get that out of there and retape it, because what that does is that prevents that wire from flexing. Every little bit of flex or every little bit of bundling these wires together you can do will definitely help you once you get the supercharger in place. Another issue I had is that vent line. You can see I had it tucked down. It popped back up when I removed the intake. I could tuck it back down, but I think I'm going to go ahead and remove it from the bracket, tie wrap it to the other vent line. I'm going to look at either cutting that bracket or bending that bracket down. Again, take the time now. One of the mistakes, one of the biggest mistakes I made was not taking the time to do this wiring harness properly. Now, let me stop here for just a moment. I know that a few of you might be thinking, well, why didn't you take the time? It's not so much the time. As I pan out here, you can see that wiring harness is way back there. In fact, I can't even reach it from the front of the vehicle. I mean, I'm way short, probably a good foot and a half. So the only way to get to that wiring harness is to come in on the driver's side, lay across the motor, try not to damage anything, and work on your side, reaching back there with your head propped up on something. It is very difficult, but don't let that keep you from doing it right. This will bite you once you get the supercharger in place. I know it did me. So let me stop here. Hopefully this video prevents you from making the same mistake I did, and we'll go to the next one.